Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a really critical look at modern performance nutrition. We're kind of moving past the diet trends and getting right into the hard science of, well, structural enhancement.
Yep.
We're launching a deep dive into what the research calls the proteocentric shift.
Which is a fancy term for a simple idea, really.
It is. It's this understanding that protein is not just a nutrient for, preventing deficiency. It's maybe the single most vital macronutrient for truly optimizing human physiology.
And this is absolutely essential context for who we're calling the executive athlete.
Right.
That's the individual who manages their biological output with the same precision they'd apply to a complex operational schedule or, say, an investment portfolio.
Exactly. So what we're doing is extracting the actionable intelligence you need to maximize body composition, enhance recovery, and really forge deep physiological resilience. Our source material for this provides an excellent blueprint. It's all derived from some rigorous analysis done by sundry.com.
It's a great source for this.
It is. So our mission here is to dissect this data, move beyond the sort of basic advice you hear everywhere else, and deliver a practical, detailed strategy for integrating, significantly elevated protein consumption into an already extremely demanding lifestyle.
And this isn't about short-term fixes.
No, not at all. This is about sustained, long-term performance.
That's the mandate. We're essentially establishing a new operational standard.
Okay, so let's start by defining the boundaries here. When we say high protein, we first have to understand what the baseline is. What is the recommended dietary allowance, the RDA, and maybe more importantly, why is it basically useless for someone pursuing peak performance?
That's the perfect starting point. The RDA baseline, which, as you said, the source material from sundrag.com defines really meticulously, is set at 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Okay, 0.8 grams.
Right. And that's for a typical sedentary individual. The number exists for, well, one primary reason: maintaining nitrogen balance.
So it's just about not going backwards.
Exactly. It's the bare minimum required to prevent your muscle and tissue from degrading. It ensures that the least active part of the population doesn't suffer from, acute deficiency.
So 0.8 grams per kilo it's the physiological maintenance setting. If I'm completely inactive, this just keeps the system running without collapsing.
That's a great way to put it.
But if I introduce any kind of physical or systemic stress, a few gym sessions, long days of cognitive effort, maybe sleep deprivation, that baseline is instantly insufficient.
Instantly. Precisely. If you are subjecting your body to stress, and that could be the catabolic stress of intensive training or even the psychological stress of chronic high demand, you are rapidly increasing the need for repair and adaptation.
And the 0.8 baseline just can't handle that.
It has zero capacity for adaptation. It cannot drive muscle hypertrophy. It can't support collagen synthesis in your joints or efficiently replace stressed immune cells. It's just, it's not designed for that.
So optimization then demands we just throw the RDA out completely and define a new higher floor. What are the strategic intake classifications for someone who's prioritizing resilience?
Sundried.com identifies a really clear hierarchy. So first we step into what they call the moderate or optimization range.
Okay.
And that's 1.0 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. This range acknowledges an active lifestyle. It supports general maintenance and gives you a degree of physiological resilience against, minor stress.
So that's a respectable floor for a generally active person.
It is. It's a good starting point.
But the real target for maximal body composition benefits and enhanced recovery, the range that really drives measurable, noticeable adaptation, that's got to be higher.
Oh, significantly higher. We have to aim for the high protein or athletic range.
Right.
And that is defined as 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight.
1.6 to 2.2. Wow.
Yeah. This spectrum is where the physiological cost-benefit analysis really peaks. It ensures there's enough amino acid substrate consistently available to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis, or MPS, and accelerate recovery from intensive structural loading.
And that loading could be resistance training or even high-volume endurance work.
Any kind of significant stress.
Let's make that really concrete for you, the listener. If you are an 85-kilogram individual, the RDA is about 68 grams a day.
Which isn't very much.
No. But if you adopt this new operational standard, you're now looking at a daily intake ranging from 136 grams up to 187 grams.
That's more than double the standard advice.
Exactly. And that requires meticulous planning, which is, why we're doing this deep dive.
It is an operational shift that requires a plan. And, we have to address an area of frequent confusion here.
What's that?
The difference between our physiological target and the commercial classification you see on, like, food packaging. This is about regulatory compliance, and it's based on energy, not your body weight.
This is a crucial distinction. So what a food manufacturer calls high protein might actually be inadequate for my 1.8 grams per kilo goal.
It very well could be.
But I still need to understand their labeling standard when I'm at the grocery store.
Exactly. So the source outlines this regulated claim structure, and it uses caloric density as the metric. First, to even qualify as a source of protein, a minimum of 12% of the total energy value, the calories, of that food has to come from protein.
Okay, 12%. That's the lowest claim, the minimum bar.
It's the bottom rung. But to be legally marketed as high protein, at least 20% of the food's total energy value must be from protein.
20%.
Now that sounds a bit abstract, but the implication for how that product is actually formulated is massive.
Okay, walk us through that. Why does hitting that 20% mark force such a fundamental change in how a food is made?
Well, because fat gives you 9 calories per gram, and carbs provide 4. Well, protein also provides 4.
Right.
So to shift that caloric ratio so that 20% comes from protein, manufacturers are forced to actively, well, decontent the food. They have to remove the cheaper, more calorically dense macronutrients.
You mean fats and certain refined carbs?
Exactly. And that is the structural engineering we're looking for as consumers.
Okay, that makes sense. So when I see protein bread, the high protein claim means they haven't just sprinkled in a bit of wheat gluten. They've had to fundamentally reduce the higher calorie components, making the protein percentage higher relative to the total energy.
Precisely. That protein milk you see isn't just standard milk with some powder stirred in. It's often been ultra-filtered. They've removed lactose, which is a carbohydrate, and water to concentrate the milk proteins.
So it's a genuine caloric upgrade.
It is. The 20% rule is a really useful signal that the food asset has been systematically optimized for protein density. It's an easy, quantitative benchmark for you when you're shopping.
That completely reframes how we should look at labels. It's not just an additive, it's a total reformulation.
That's the key takeaway.
Okay, so we've defined the metrics. Now let's get into the deep metabolic why. Why is the body so responsive to this elevated intake? Let's unpack the 3 primary metabolic mechanisms that really underpin this strategic shift.
Right. The metabolic rationale is the foundation of this whole blueprint. We're moving from just supporting structure, muscle, to enhancing daily function like satiety, and even increasing energy expenditure with teeth.
Let's start with mechanism 1, enhance satiety. We all kind of intuitively know that protein is filling, but what exactly are the hormonal levers that protein pulls to create that sustained sense of fullness?
Well, the source confirms that protein is, without a doubt, the most satiating macronutrient. And the effect is way beyond just, the volume in your stomach. It's orchestrated by specific gut hormones.
Okay.
When amino acids, especially from protein digest, reach your lower gastrointestinal tract, they stimulate a rapid secretion of these key signaling peptides, PYY and GLP-1.
PYY and GLP-1, those sound highly technical. How do they actually function together to control appetite?
Well, GL1, for example, it has 2 critical roles. First, it slows down gastric emptying.
So it literally keeps food in your stomach longer.
Exactly. And if your stomach feels physically full for a longer period, the satiety signals are amplified. The second thing it does is it acts on the pancreas to modulate insulin and glucagon release.
So GLP-1 is slowing the delivery system and helping to stabilize blood sugar.
What about PYY? What's its job?
PYY is the direct signal to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's secreted in proportion to the caloric load, particularly the protein load, and it travels up to the hypothalamus and essentially signals. The tank is full, you can cease feeding behavior.
So together they're a 1-2 punch.
A powerful one. GLP-1 ensures mechanical fullness lasts longer, and PYY tells the central command center that you're satisfied.
And the relevance for our listener, for the executive athlete, is just undeniable. If you are locked into, say, an intense 8-hour block of deep cognitive work, you cannot afford the mental distraction of persistent hunger pangs.
Or the energy slump that comes with rapid gastric emptying of a carb-heavy meal. Exactly. So protein basically becomes a focus tool. It manages your energy balance passively.
It creates a state of consistent energy availability and really sustained mental clarity. You eliminate the mental friction of managing cravings and hunger, which lets you deploy your full resources toward the task at hand.
Okay, mechanism number 2, and this one is maybe the most surprising. The thermic effect of food, or TF. This is the metabolic cost of digestion. When we eat protein, we are essentially burning calories just to process the calories we just consumed.
It's this concept of inherent metabolic inefficiency, but leveraged for weight management. Every macronutrient has a TEEF, but proteins is just dramatically higher. It provides that, as you said, sort of free metabolic boost.
Let's review the data from sundried.com on this because it's pretty striking.
The data is incredibly compelling. So dietary fat is metabolically cheap to process. Its TF is only 0 to 3% of the calories you consume.
Almost nothing.
Right. Carbohydrates require a little more work, costing about 5 to 10%. But protein is the champion of metabolic cost. Processing protein requires an expenditure of 20 to 30% of the calories consumed.
20 to 30%. Up to a third of the energy content is just dissipated as heat and metabolic work. That's an enormous structural difference.
It's huge.
Can you translate that into a practical daily scenario for us?
Sure. Consider this. If you're consuming 2,500 calories per day, and you shift 500 of those calories from being mostly from fat, which has a low TEEF, to being from protein with a high TEEF, your passive energy expenditure increases significantly.
By how much?
Well, if you calculate the difference, say moving 500 calories from an average 5% TEF to an average 25% TEF, that's an extra 100 calories burned daily, passively, just by changing the source.
100 calories a day, 7 days a week. That is a completely embedded metabolic advantage for anyone trying to maintain a lean physique without constantly needing to add more cardio.
It's a powerful, non-exercise-based lever for managing your energy balance. And it often means you can eat slightly more while maintaining the same caloric deficit, which in turn helps you stick to the high-protein protocol. It's easier.
That makes a lot of sense. Finally, let's move to mechanism 3. Muscle protein synthesis, MPS. This is probably the most famous role of protein focused on that structural integrity, maintenance, and long-term resilience.
For the long-term executive athlete, maintaining lean muscle mass is absolutely non-negotiable. Muscle is your body's primary metabolic engine, and it's a vital reservoir of amino acids for all sorts of systemic needs.
And as you noted, muscle is in constant flux synthesis and breakdown.
It is, so our strategic goal is to constantly tilt that balance toward net anabolism, toward building.
And what's the specific cellular pathway that protein has to trigger to get that repair and growth started?
That is the crucial anabolic switch, the MTO pathway, that's MTOR.
MTO.
Adequate protein intake, and specifically the presence of an amino acid called leucine, is the necessary input signal to activate this pathway. It initiates this complex cascade of cellular repair and growth.
You mentioned leucine. Is that the specific trigger, or is it more about the total protein amount?
It's a bit of both, but leucine is really considered the primary spark plug. Thankfully, high-quality protein sources contain plenty of leucine, but what research has clearly established is something called a critical threshold effect.
Okay, a threshold.
Yes. Your body requires an intake of approximately 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein in a single meal to maximally stimulate that MTOR pathway and the subsequent MPS.
So below that 25 to 30 gram target, we're likely just supporting baseline maintenance, but we're leaving potential structural gains on the table.
Precisely. If you eat 15 grams of protein, you'll get a small response, but you are not flipping the anabolic switch to maximum capacity. The strategy must therefore be one of consistent pulse delivery.
Can you elaborate on that, on pulse delivery? Why can't I just eat all 150 grams of my protein at the end of the day in one huge meal?
Because your body's ability to use amino acids for MPS gets saturated once that 25-30 gram threshold is hit in a meal. The excess protein beyond that is typically just oxidized for energy or converted for storage. It does not lead to a prolonged or an exponentially greater anabolic response. You activate the MTOR pathway, but it downregulates after a few hours.
So the goal is to keep turning it back on.
That's the optimal strategy, as supported by the intelligence from sundried.com, consistently reactivating that pathway, say, every 4 to 5 hours to maximize your total daily synthesis potential.
That really structuralizes the eating schedule. Every major meal has to be built around hitting that 25 to 30 gram minimum.
That's the blueprint.
We've clarified the why and the quantitative how. Now let's inventory our assets. This next part is all about identifying the highest yield sources. When it comes to protein quality, what makes animal-derived foods the, quote, gold standard?
Animal foods are consistently ranked as Tier 1, and it's due to two primary factors. First, they inherently possess a complete amino acid profile.
Meaning they have all 9 essential amino acids we need.
All 9. And second, they boast exceptionally high bioavailability, which means your body can efficiently absorb and use those amino acids with minimal waste.
Okay, let's start with the archetype of lean protein efficiency, poultry, specifically chicken breast. What are the density specifics that make it so powerful?
Chicken breast is really the standard operational template for building lean mass. A standard 100-gram serving of cooked chicken breast delivers a remarkable 31 to 32 grams of protein.
That's over the MPS threshold in one small serving.
It is, but the efficiency metric is also critical. Because it's so low in fat, around 165 kilocalories per 100 gram, it provides nearly 19 grams of protein per 100 calories.
That 19 grams per 100 calories, that's the metric the executive athlete has to internalize. It tells you how much protein you're getting for a minimal caloric investment.
Absolutely.
And if I switch to dark meat, that efficiency drops significantly, correct?
Yes, it does. While dark meat, like thighs, still provides a lot of absolute protein, around 26 g per 100 grams, its caloric density is substantially higher because of the intramuscular fat content.
So for someone managing a precise caloric budget to stay lean.
Chicken breast is the mathematically superior choice, no question.
Okay, moving on to the egg. Sundried.com calls it the biological reference standard. That's a pretty weighty title for something so common.
Well, it earns that title because its amino acid profile is considered the ideal match for human requirements. For decades, the egg was literally used as the benchmark for calculating the biological value, or BV, of every other protein source.
Wow.
It's the closest thing to perfect fuel. It's got protein, essential fatty acids, and key micronutrients like choline and vitamin D, which are often concentrated in the yolk.
So if it's the standard, what's the actual output? How much protein are we talking?
A standard large egg provides between 6.0 and 6.3 grams of protein.
Okay, so about 6 grams.
Which, given our 30-gram MPS threshold, makes the strategic calculation very clear. You need approximately 5 whole eggs to maximally trigger the anabolic response in a single meal.
5 eggs. That is a concrete, actionable number for planning breakfast.
It is?
Now let's explore dairy. Technology has played a huge role here in increasing concentration.
Dairy is fascinating because we can actually manipulate the content through filtration. Standard cow's milk contains about 3.5 grams of protein per 100 milliliters.
Pretty low.
Right. But the industry has perfected techniques like ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis to create these highly dense products.
So how much of a difference does that filtration really make?
It's substantial. The ultra-filtered options, like the Arla protein milk mentioned in the source, actively remove water and lactose. This concentration process boosts the protein density to 5.5 to 6.0 grams per 100 milliliters.
Wow, that's a passive increase of around 57% in protein density.
Think about that. If you just put that milk on your cereal, you have instantly upgraded your protein yield with zero extra effort.
A 57% boost just by selecting the right carton of milk. That's the absolute definition of a low-effort, high-impact, strategic upgrade.
We see the same principle in yogurts, driven by straining. A standard stirred yogurt is around 4 for 5 grams per 100 grams.
Okay.
Greek yogurt, because it's strained, concentrates the solids to 9-10 grams per 100 gram.
Double.
And then there's the true heavyweight champion, Skyr, the Icelandic cultured dairy, which often reaches 11 to 13.5 grams per 100 grams. Skyr is essentially a highly dense, efficient protein paste.
A protein paste, I like that. Now let's address the secondary sources, particularly plant-based options. They're gaining a lot of traction, but they seem to require a different level of planning.
Absolutely. Plant sources are viable assets, but you have to assess them carefully, especially regarding amino acid profiles and just the sheer volume you have to eat.
So what are the workhorses in the plant world?
Legumes. Cooked lentils, for example, will give you about 9 grams of protein per 100 grams, and they're coupled with superior fiber for added satiety.
And what about plant sources that come close to the animal standard of having a complete amino acid profile?
That would be soy products. Specifically, fermented products like tempeh are highly valued. Tempeh provides 19 to 20 grams of protein per 100 grams.
That's very dense.
And, crucially, it boasts a complete amino acid profile, which makes it a Tier 1 plant protein asset. It's comparable to meat in terms of quality and density.
The density is key. But we have to address this prevalent misconception about the protein content of just generally healthy whole foods, the banana case study is paramount here.
Oh, this is a huge pitfall for so many people trying to increase their protein. They assume any healthy whole food must be a good source of every macronutrient. They see a banana, they think energy, they assume protein.
So what is the hard nutritional reality of a medium banana?
It contains only 1.1 to 1.3 grams of protein.
1 gram. That is a harsh reality check. If I'm aiming for 150 grams of protein a day, a banana is contributing less than 1%.
And that really puts our MPS threshold into perspective. To hit the required 30 grams of protein just using bananas, you would need to consume roughly 25 bananas in one sitting.
25.
Not only is that physically impossible, but it would also deliver over 2,600 calories, primarily from carbohydrates and sugars.
So the lesson is crystal clear. A banana is a carbohydrate and potassium asset, not a protein asset. We have to analyze foods based on their dominant, high-yield macro, not just their general health halo.
It prevents catastrophic overeating while you're chasing an unattainable protein goal. It teaches you, the listener, to prioritize protein density per calorie above all else.
And that need for density and efficiency leads us directly into our next section, the rise of engineered nutrition or functional foods. Given the time constraints and logistical demands on the executive athlete, efficiency is paramount. So how are manufacturers systematically using isolated proteins to optimize traditional staples?
The modern marketplace absolutely reflects this demand for performance. Manufacturers are taking isolated proteins, things like wheat gluten, whey concentrate, pea protein isolate, and they're integrating them into foods that were historically just pure carbohydrate delivery systems.
So the goal is to provide a high-yield protein source that requires minimal prep time and fits seamlessly into habits you already have.
That's it, exactly.
Let's use the Weetabix analysis as our case study in cereal fortification. Weetabix is a standard, quick breakfast for a lot of people. What does the functional version look like?
Okay, so standard Weetabix contains a baseline of about 12 grams of protein per 100 grams. The optimized product, Weetabix protein, is enriched, particularly with wheat gluten and other concentrated wheat proteins, and that boosts the content to 19 grams of protein per 100 grams.
That's a 58% increase in density, achieved just by engineering the flour content.
It is.
Well,
Now, while a serving of 2 biscuits only yields about 7.6 grams, the genius is in the architectural pairing.
the stacking.
The stacking. As the sundried.com analysis notes, when you combine it with a serving of Skyr, which gives you maybe 13.5 grams of protein, or a cup of that ultra-filtered protein milk with 12 grams, you have instantly created a 20 to 30 gram protein breakfast that takes 90 seconds to prepare.
It transforms a modest asset into a powerful anchor support for that high-protein dairy.
The combination unlocks the efficiency.
Let's look at other staple upgrades, starting with bread. Bread is so central to most diets, yet it's often very protein poor.
The shift in bread manufacturing is remarkable. Standard wholemeal bread averages around 10 grams of protein per 100 grams, but a product like Warburton's Protein Power is fortified with wheat gluten, pulses, and seeds, driving the content up to 15.9 grams per 100 grams.
So one slice is providing about 8 grams.
Right. Doubling the protein per slice is a massive win for meal versatility. It means the same sandwich now has 16 grams of protein just from the bread. It makes it so much easier to hit 30 grams when you add a dense filling like chicken or tuna.
It changes the foundational macro structure of the entire meal without you having to alter your consumption habit.
Exactly. Now consider pasta. Standard durum wheat pasta is typically around 12.5 grams of protein per 100 grams.
Which is pretty low density for a main meal anchor.
So we shift to legume-based flours. Red lentil or chickpea pastas are now widely available. Because they are made entirely from pulses, their protein density skyrockets, offering 20 to 25 grams of protein per 100 grams.
That's nearly double the protein. And the source reminds us that these legume pastas also have superior fiber content, which ties right back to mechanism 1, enhanced satiety.
So you get more protein and more sustained fullness. It's the double metabolic win. You sacrifice nothing in caloric structure, but gain dramatically in macro and fiber density.
Okay, and what about high-carb indulgence meals, like pancakes?
Which are pure carbohydrate bombs when made traditionally. Well, functional food manufacturers have completely re-engineered them. Commercial protein pancake mixes swap out huge portions of the standard flour for whey or casein proteins and oat flour. These mixes can deliver a staggering 34 to over 60 grams of protein per 100 grams of dry mix.
Compared to what, like 6 grams in a standard mix?
Around 6.4 grams, yeah. It allows you to turn what was once a guaranteed carb crash into a perfectly structured anabolic breakfast that hits or even exceeds that 30-gram MPS threshold.
It's the ultimate mitigation of dietary risk.
It really is. But when we talk about the absolute pinnacle of engineered efficiency, we have to discuss liquid nutrition. We have to talk about the strategic role of protein shakes.
For the executive athlete who requires minimal prep time, is the shake still the champion?
Without a doubt, shakes are the ultimate engineered solution. They provide high-quality protein with negligible fat and carbohydrate content, require minimal prep, and crucially, minimal digestive overhead.
That's a big deal after a hard workout.
It's critical, especially when your stomach might be a bit unsettled, or for a fast supplement during a chaotic operational day.
Why is a specific product like whey protein isolate considered such a strategic asset, particularly around training?
Whey protein isolate is exceptionally concentrated, often over 80% protein by weight, and it's very rapidly digested. The speed is vital. It creates a rapid surge of amino acids in your bloodstream, often peaking within 30 to 60 minutes.
So you're capitalizing on that post-exercise recovery window.
You're maximizing it. It's a tactical delivery system to ensure that 25 to 30-gram target is met instantly and reliably.
It's a precision tool. If I know I need 30 grams, I use a scoop. No weighing, no cooking, no chewing. It just eliminates the margin for error.
That's it. When time constraints are absolute or when your appetite is lacking, a precisely formulated protein shake is the most reliable, quantifiable method to maintain consistency in meeting those critical MPS targets.
We established the operational rules and the assets. Now for the execution. This next section is all about constructing the optimized plate, how to reliably hit that 30-gram threshold, and, most importantly, discussing the long game of sustained physiological resilience.
And success really hinges on the anchor strategy. We define a high-protein meal as one containing at least 30 grams of protein, and that requires a primary protein source that can achieve that goal single-handedly, or at least come very close.
Let's review our Tier 1 anchors and the volume required to hit that target.
The poultry anchor is the most efficient performer. A standard 140-gram cooked chicken breast provides approximately 43 to 45 grams of protein,
which comfortably exceeds the 30-gram threshold, giving you a nice buffer.
A good buffer. The fish anchor provides a slightly tighter margin. A 140-gram cod fillet provides around 30 to 35 grams of protein.
So cod, being a very lean white fish, hits that minimum target with high caloric efficiency.
It does. Fatty fish like salmon, while providing excellent omega-3s, requires a slightly larger volume or a higher caloric investment to hit that same absolute protein mass.
Okay, now, the plant anchor. We noted this is the most logistically challenging path because of the density and volume requirements.
It requires strategic compensation, no doubt. To hit 30 grams from cooked lentils, for instance, you would need to consume approximately 350 grams of cooked lentils.
That's a lot of lentils.
That volume is often overwhelming. It can cause digestive issues from the high fiber load, or it might simply take too long to consume for a quick operational meal.
And that just reinforces the need for stacking in plant-based protocols.
Precisely. The stacking strategy involves combining high-density plant foods to ensure both the 30-gram minimum and a complete amino acid profile are met. So, for example, combining high-density tofu, which has about 15G, plus edamame with 9G, plus quinoa with 6G, that's the kind of deliberate engineering required to equal the output of a single piece of chicken.
That complexity really underscores the strategic time investment required for a plant-based, high-protein diet versus the simplicity of just using animal anchors.
It's undeniable. But the reason we go through all this effort isn't just for today's performance. It's for the long game. We have to discuss the existential threat to long-term performance: sarcopenia.
The age-related loss of muscle mass.
Exactly. And it's often ignored until it becomes a major problem affecting your mobility, your metabolic rate, and your overall health span.
So why does this high-protein strategy become even more crucial as we age?
Because as we accrue decades, our body's repair and growth machinery changes. We develop what is scientifically termed anabolic resistance.
Anabolic resistance.
It means that the cellular receptors responsible for sensing the presence of amino acids and triggering that vital mTOR pathway, they just become less sensitive. They require a much stronger stimulus to flip the switch.
So an older individual eating the same 30 grams of protein as a younger person is actually getting a diminished anabolic response.
That is exactly the case. The body is resistant to the stimulus. Therefore, maintaining your structural integrity over decades necessitates a higher absolute protein dose per meal just to achieve the same rate of synthesis as a younger person.
So what's the countermeasure?
The optimal therapeutic countermeasure, as cited in the research, is ensuring a significantly elevated protein layer approaching zero point 0.4 grams per kilogram of body weight per meal.
Wow, zero point 0.4 g per kilo per meal.
For a 75-kilogram older individual, that's aiming for 30 grams 4 to 5 times a day, and if their appetite is diminishing, whole food volume becomes a major obstacle.
And that is why the engineered solutions we discussed become not just convenient, but essential survival tools in the long game.
The shakes, the fortified foods.
They deliver the concentrated dose needed to overcome that anabolic resistance without requiring overwhelming physical volume or effort. They ensure structural resilience even when appetite or physical limitations start to set in.
So the final strategic insight from sundried.com is that the focus has to evolve beyond just counting daily grams. Yes, the successful long-term methodology must focus on 3 non-negotiable elements: protein density per calorie, for body composition, amino acid completeness, for quality inputs, and optimal distribution throughout the day, that consistent MPS pulse.
Okay, that brings us to the most actionable intelligence. We want to provide a tailored blueprint based on resource allocation. Not everyone can afford to use the most advanced engineered supplements, so we need a tiered approach.
This is the practical application of everything we've talked about. We've designed these tiers based on maximizing protein yield relative to cost, and also maximizing time efficiency.
Let's start with Tier 1. I'm on a budget. I need the highest protein return for the lowest cash investment. What are the undeniable cost-effective champions here?
Sundried.com's list for Tier 1 focuses on volume, shelf stability, and complete protein. Number 1, without a doubt, is eggs. They are the most economical source of complete protein available when you buy them in bulk.
Okay. What's number 2? What's the secret weapon for cheap density?
Skimmed milk powder. It offers roughly 36 grams of protein per 100 grams of dry weight. It's shelf-stable, extremely concentrated, and incredibly versatile.
How so?
You can add a tablespoon to oats, soups, even standard milk to passively boost the protein content of almost any meal. It offers a versatility advantage over whey concentrate, which is really just for shakes.
That's an excellent point on versatility. What about cheap dairy?
Cottage cheese. It's often overlooked in favor of the more expensive Greek yogurt or skyr, but cottage cheese provides a very solid 11 to 12 grams per 100 grams, making it a highly cost-effective, versatile asset for snacks or side dishes.
And what about the high-yield canned options?
Tin tuna or sardines in water. These are pure protein assets, zero carbohydrate, roughly 26 grams per 100 grams, and they have an indefinite shelf life. They are perfect for last-minute meal additions.
And finally, the non-animal staples for sheer volume.
Lentils and beans. While they require cooking time, their cost per gram of protein is minimal. They provide a solid 8 to 9 grams per 100 grams cooked, and you can pair them with rice for a complete amino acid profile. And of course, the cheapest supplemental protein remains bulk purchased whey protein concentrate.
Okay, moving to Tier 2, moderate investment. I'm comfortable spending a bit more for convenience and for immediate, measurable results.
The focus here is on strategic, high-impact replacements. The first and most crucial intervention is the breakfast upgrade.
We've talked about this.
Exactly. Make that passive switch from standard dairy to high-density dairy. Switching to Greek yogurt, skyr, or ultra-filtered protein milk gives you an instant passive boost of 10 to 15 grams daily with zero disruption to your morning routine.
That's an immediate quantitative return on investment for minimal effort. What's the next operational change?
Adopting the lean protein standard. Commit to integrating chicken breast or whitefish into 3 to 4 of your evening meals per week. And to maximize time efficiency, batch cook these proteins on a Sunday night so they are just grab-and-go assets for quick meal assembly during a busy week.
And what about snack optimization?
Replace those mid-afternoon carb crashes, the crackers, pretzels, fruit with structured protein snacks. Think individual pots of high-quality Greek yogurt, a handful of pre-cooked edamame, or some high-quality beef jerky. These will stabilize your energy and eliminate distraction.
Okay, Tier 3, the all-in. Budget is secondary to maximizing performance, precision, and structural gains. This is the maximal optimization strategy.
This strategy leverages precision technology and advanced timing. First, you'd upgrade all your sources to premium quality grass-fed, pasture-raised, or wild-caught. Second, you get into advanced supplementation and timing. We move beyond just basic whey concentrate.
Okay, tell us about the 2 critical supplementation types used here.
So you'd utilize the ultra-fast absorbing whey protein hydrolysate immediately post-training. Hydrolyzed whey is pre-digested, which ensures the quickest possible delivery to the muscle for maximal MPS stimulation during that critical window.
And the other one.
Conversely, you'd integrate slow-digesting micellar casein immediately before sleep. Casein forms a gel in the stomach, releasing amino acids slowly over 5 to 7 hours, which ensures a positive nitrogen balance is maintained throughout that crucial overnight repair phase.
That is a true 24-hour nitrogen balance strategy. You're basically never in a catabolic state.
That's the goal, and this strategy must be paired with data. We move beyond simple scales and tape measures and incorporate data tracking via DEXA scans.
For listeners who are unfamiliar, what exactly does a DEXA scan measure, and why is it so superior to traditional tracking?
DEXA is the gold standard for body composition. It provides highly accurate measurements of your lean mass, fat mass, and bone mineral density in specific regions of your body. A simple scale just measures total body weight, which tells you nothing about whether you gained 5 pounds of muscle or 5 pounds of fat.
So DEXA provides the precision needed to track the actual impact of this protocol on structural lean mass gains.
It provides the indisputable evidence that the strategy is working where it matters, in building structural resilience.
And the final piece for Tier 3.
Systematic functional food integration. This means you systematically replace all traditional carbohydrate staples, every piece of bread, every serving of pasta, every carton of milk, with the high-protein, high-fiber alternatives we discussed. This completely shifts the macro architecture of your daily intake to savor protein dominance.
That tiered approach provides a really clear path forward for everyone. Let's conclude this deep dive with a rapid-fire review of the top 10 things to be doing, summarizing the most impactful steps identified by sundried.com.
Let's do it. 1. Establish your target. Stop using the RDA. Calculate and commit to your optimized athletic intake of 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
2. Prioritize the MPS threshold. Make sure every meal contains a minimum of 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein to maximize that anabolic signal.
3. Optimize the initial meal. Abandon the carb-dominant breakfast. Your first meal should anchor protein using eggs, skyr, or a supplement to stabilize your energy for the entire day.
4. Leverage lean animal protein. Use those efficient assets like chicken breast, white fish, and eggs as predictable staples because of their density and completeness.
5. Utilize dairy concentration. Make the switch to skyr or Greek yogurt over the standard versions for an immediate passive boost in protein density.
6. Strategic supplementation. Use protein shakes precisely when time is limited, immediately post-exercise, or when a meal falls short of that 30-gram threshold.
7. Upgrade staples. Transition strategically to protein-fortified bread, ultra-filtered milk, and legume-based pasta where it's feasible for you.
8. Monitor protein density per calorie. Always select sources with the highest protein-to-calorie ratio, especially when body composition management is your primary goal.
Number 9. Maintain consistency. This is a long-term physiological strategy, not a fad diet. Adherence and yet pulse delivery throughout the day are the primary determinants of your structural success.
And finally, number 10.
Counter anabolic resistance. Acknowledge that as you age, your protein needs increase, which makes using concentrated, engineered foods essential for your long-term health span.
That's a complete blueprint. It really transitions you, the listener, from rudimentary gram counting to an advanced strategic nutritional architecture.
Yeah, the core lesson is clear. Optimizing protein intake is about understanding precision and systemic strategy. It requires a deep knowledge of density, leveraging those metabolic triggers like TIF and the 25 to 30 gram MPS threshold, and systematically using both whole foods and advanced functional foods to consistently meet your high targets throughout the day. It's an investment in your future structural integrity.
And here is the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. And this comes straight from the source's conclusion. The analysis consistently shows that integrating 20 to 30 grams of protein into breakfast is the single most effective intervention for optimizing the typical Western dietary protocol.
The single most effective.
So given that foundational insight, how might auditing and immediately shifting your carb-heavy morning routine, perhaps replacing toast with 3 eggs or a protein-fortified smoothie, fundamentally shift your entire day's focus, your metabolic output, and your long-term performance trajectory?
Take that challenge, audit your current breakfast protocol immediately, and just identify the simplest upgrade you can make tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We look forward to getting into the next layer of complexity with you soon.
Farewell.